English language. So at the age of 3, we left. And so my first language is Korean. But growing up in the United States the whole time, you know, all my life, English became, of course, more comfortable for me. And if people ask me, do I dream in Korean or in English? But I think naturally, whatever language is what you're more comfortable with. So obviously, I'll probably dream in English, yeah.
Yeah, you're more comfortable with English, right? Yeah. And we talked, you know, I had an interesting conversation with DJ Shine a while ago about being a Korean American and coming to Korea and starting a new life, and he considered himself Korean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, who understood American ways was, I think, the way he put it. I understand American ways. But then he came over here and he felt like he suffered some discrimination here because he wasn't born and raised Korean and he couldn't speak Korean the way normal other Koreans could and things like that. So how do you feel about this whole thing of being between two cultures a little bit?
You know, well, first of all, you mentioned DJ Shine, and I love that guy. He's such an awesome guy. He was on my radio show as a guest for probably about 2 years, along with former member of Solid, Kim Jo-an, Kim Se-wang, the guitarist. He was a guest. Danny Jung, saxophone. They were all guests on my radio show, so we became really close. And every single one of them that I mentioned, of course, Brian Ju was also a guest too, like frequently. But these are all people who probably have gone through this Korean American kind of identity, or is it a crisis or identity? So myself,
they're all Korean Americans,
right? They're all Korean Americans.
Okay, so you rattle off a bunch of names of Korean Americans, and do you feel like you guys all had similar experiences?
We do, because the first time I asked Kim Jo-an, who was a former member of Solid, I asked him to come on my radio show as a guest for, you know, 고정 guest, a regular guest. We met and just instantly, he grew up in the West Coast, I grew up on the East Coast, but just instantly, and same goes with DJ Shine and with Brian Ju, Dan Jung, all of these guys. There's, of course, many Korean Americans even coming back to Korea to work in Korea. But this identity thing, for some reason in the stateside, in America when I was growing up, I didn't really see any kind of identity. I just, you know, just saw myself as a person, a female.
Right. I think it's a big difference for the area that you grow up in too. If it's a multiracial, multicultural neighborhood, I think that people grew up in, you just kind of, there's a little racism, but you don't experience it too much.
That's true.
From what I got from DJ Shine, it sounded like he was in a pretty minority neighborhood, and he was the minority of the minority, and he experienced a lot of racism, was what I got. But I don't know. It sounds like you didn't experience much.
Well, I did. Of course, everyone kind of goes through that a little bit, and depending on, you know, for example, I have an older sister and an older brother. They went through it harder than I did. You know, they kind of helped make paths for me, but yeah, I did go through it. I would even have friends come over when I was in younger days, like grade 3, elementary school, you know, grade 3. And when my friends would come over, I used to hide my chopsticks. I used to make ramyeon and hide my chopsticks because my friends weren't used to chopsticks. Yeah, how do you eat with sticks, you know? So when I would cook them ramyeon, which is so different to, you know, for them to eat instead of a sandwich or macaroni and cheese, then I used to hide my chopsticks. But after I grew a little bit older, I think in my teen years, then I asked my friends when they're coming over to my house, I would give them chopsticks. You need to use this at my house and see if you can use them. So they're like, how do I eat with chopsticks? You know, 젓가락, you know? And so these are my foreign friends coming to my house. And I started to be proud of that. And the more proud and the more things I would show, it took away from me being an Asian or Korean growing up in America. So I would have them, then I'd bring out kimchi, you know? And so not only the chopsticks or the ramyeon, then I'd bring out kimchi and said, you know, you need to have, you know, 1 slice of kimchi with your ramyeon and chopsticks. And they would be like, whoa, but then, you know, things in school.
That stuff smells!
I know, right? But things in school, people would be like, you know, hey, if you go to Dorothy's house, you get to try some really different food, you know, and then they would think that it's Chinese Chinese. Like, oh, is it Chinese? I'm like, no, it's Korean. I'd explain. So it was like, I was becoming this ambassador to Korea to explain things. And I think the more that they knew about me and my background and culture, it made them understand a little bit more about me. And they liked that it was different. Yeah. So other friends, they would go have cookies, but...
And hasn't the world changed a lot since we were kids? I mean, when we were kids, the Chinese restaurant that was in the town was the craziest food you could go try. But now you can go try anything. And everybody's tried using chopsticks in America.
That is true. I mean, even now the chopsticks have directions on how to use the chopsticks. But who looks at that? Everyone just kind of knows,
They have directions on how to use chopsticks.
Right. And I think, we have come a long way, but there's still more to go. And with language, I think, this is definitely ways of a communication for us to being able to communicate or to introduce a new culture, which is very important. And I think it's up to the individuals. For example, when we have foreigners visiting Korea and you, the students learning English right now, you need to explain. I think you have to explain before you just give them something, though. You can't just give them, oh, here's galbichim, you'll like it. You need to explain that it's beef short ribs, braised in soy sauce. It's sweet. It's eaten with usually white rice. You need to explain these things, I think. And it's very important before someone just dives into something, even food or culture in terms of music or art. You've got to get this introduction for you to enjoy it more.
So you're back on the language education part that we were talking about a minute ago? Okay. Okay.
It's very important.
Cultural education and being exposed to this. I think I told the story. I don't think I've told the story before, but when I was a young kid, we had a bake sale.
Okay. Lemonade and cookies.
It was all cookies and cupcakes, and my best friends were a Korean family.
Okay.
Do you know Bernie Cho?
I know Bernie Cho.
He was my neighbor in Western New York.
And Korean American too.
Korean American, right. So I was buddies with the Chos, and their mother made mandu.
Oh,
for the bake sale. And everybody,
I love it.
We were like, what is that? You're crazy. Your mom's crazy. You're all crazy. And then I'm a little crazy, so I paid a nickel and I bought one. I was like, these are great. And then I think I bought them all. I was like, these are the best.
Imagine that.
Those little experiences, when you're young, that open you up to
well, here you are now.
Who would have thought?
Look at that. Bernie Cho is your friend, and you tasted mandu, and you're here in Korea, and you get service mandu with your jjajangmyeon and jangpo.